Today's discussion is the first installment of this new podcast series titled Rethinking Contemporary Islamic Movements in and Across Europe and the Middle East. And this podcast series seeks to advance comparative analysis of wider patterns of change, continuity, similarity, and difference across diverse contemporary Islamic movements in and across these two regions. The podcast series is hosted by the Al-Walid Centre in Edinburgh University and by the Centre of Islamic Studies in Cambridge University. And we also thank the Gerda Henkel Foundation for its financial support. So my name is Dr. Eyre, and I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the Al-Walid Centre in Edinburgh University. And to my left or right is...
Yes, hi. So my name is Iman, Dawood, and I'm a postdoctoral research and outreach officer at the Centre of Islamic Studies, also at the University of Cambridge.
So today we're delighted to introduce our discussant for this podcast episode. This is Saida Ounissi, a prominent activist, researcher, and figure from the Tunisian Ennahda movement. So Ennahda emerged in Tunisia in the 1970s and 1980s with informal links to the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood. It faced heavy repression under the increasingly authoritarian Ben Ali regime. However, following Ben Ali's fall in January 2011, the movement was legalized and ran for political office in subsequent elections, and it would head the new Tunisian government until 2014. And it remained an indispensable part of subsequent government. However, following President Saied's dismissal of the government and dissolution of the Tunisian parliament in 2021, many civil society activists and politicians in Tunisia, including Ennahda members, have faced growing state repression. So our guest today, Saida Ounissi, was born in Tunis, but her family subsequently fled the dictatorship of Ben Ali for France in 1993. I hope I'm getting this right. So Saida holds a double degree in history and political science at University of Paris 1 at the Panthéon-Sorbonne, and obtained her master's at the Institute for the Study of Economic and Social Development.
And in September 2014, Saida became the head of the list in the constituency of North of France by the Ennahda Party. She also became an executive member and the international spokesperson of the Ennahda Party in May 2016. In November 2018, she was promoted as the Minister for Employment and Vocational Training after the Prime Minister Chahed's party reshuffle. In doing so, she became the youngest minister in Tunisia. In 2019, she was also elected as a member of the Tunisian Assembly of People's Representatives. And since the dissolution of the parliament in July 2021, Saida is committed to the restoration of democracy in Tunisia through her involvement in the anti-coup movement. So I think I'll be the one to begin by asking you a few questions, Saida, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit about your current research project on the internal dynamics of Ennahda, and more specifically about the role of the rank and file members of Ennahda, and especially women, in shaping the movements and the ideas and strategies and activities of Ennahda?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Iman and Guy, for hosting me today. I'm actually quite proud to be the first guest for this series, and I wish you a lot of success, and I'm sure it will actually meet an audience who probably would love to hear from the ground and by people who are coming from there. My actual research, the coup in 2021 in July was actually an occasion to try to stop and think about what actually went wrong during the democratic transition. It was very important to kind of evaluate, but not only from the expert or public policies or strictly political side. It was important that stakeholders and actors who've been at the first rank of this transition since 2011 took actually the time to reflect, and a lot of people called also for what we can call a mea culpa. And I thought that one of the best way to do that was actually to try to use the tools given to us by political science, by history, by anthropology, by sociology, to try to dissect and understand what happened inside the political parties. One of the main, let's say, narrative that we had straight after the coup was that political parties were the main responsible for the degradation of the political life in Tunisia, and for Saied, the current president, to be successful in conducting the coup. And that political parties were not only responsible, but without them, we would be able to reach a real democracy, a real power by the people. So I wanted to look at what are actually these political parties, and specifically Ennahda, because a lot of things were written about Ennahda and on Ennahda, and many of the knowledge produced about Ennahda was produced in a very specific time period, where this party was actually looking and searching for its own identity after the revolution, and after being in power, and after having to step up in a very sensitive and exceptional history of the country. So I wanted to look specifically on public policies run by Ennahda at the economic and social level, and to maybe let all the religious / identity / Islamic, etc., ideological, philosophical matters that have been, very, very much looked into after the revolution, because we wanted to know if an Islamic party can be democratic and can actually fully support a democratic transition. So for me, the main question was why people were so angry about Ennahda. And it was not, again, because of the way that they conducted the institutional transition, the institutional democratization of the country, but because many, many people in Tunisia were believing and feeling that this revolution and the way this revolution was actually managed didn't distribute enough in terms of social and economical results. And that's why they were quite angry. So for me, it was, okay, Ennahda is an Islamic / Muslim Democrat political party, but what about its economic identity? And this is the main let's say, matter or issue I am looking at it now, and the answers that I am currently finding. And it's quite interesting for me, because I have to put up this distance toward the party while in the same time still being kind of loyal to my history inside this political party. So yeah, it's been a quite interesting exercise, and hopefully this research complete and be published in the coming months.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear, Saida. No, I think I was wanting to follow up on something. You said the people, but the people is quite a broad category, right? Could you dissect that a little bit further for us, in the sense of who do you mean when you refer to the people and how they view Ennahda?
So there is obviously very concrete, I would say, references, which are the results of the elections. And Tunisia was actually blessed by the fact that we, in a period of 10 years, had 6 democratic elections. Despite what Saied would say, himself is actually and gather his legitimacy through one of those democratic elections that Tunisia had. And Ennahda, during this different rendezvous with the population, very concretely lost a lot of popularity. And while we had 1.2 million voters in 2011, only, and I say that, those are the numbers, only 4,050 450,000 would be 4,050 people showed up and voted for Ennahda in 2019, and that was one of the main, I would say, alarm ring that Ennahda got in terms of popularity check inside the population. And the reason, again, was because of social and economic issues. It was not about protecting freedoms. It was not about protecting, a democratic, institutionally talking way to manage the state. It was not about having free elections. It was not about ensuring freedom for the press, for example. It was really about how can I, as a young Tunisian or as a Tunisian family today, be sure that my economic and social needs, and especially in terms of public services also, are actually there. And with also having an international pandemic hitting the country quite hardly from 2022, and COVID was actually quite harsh in Tunisia, especially in the second half of it. And I do believe that it was one also of the main reason why the coup was so easygoing, because the coup didn't meet any resistance in Tunisia because of the seriousness, I would say, of the political crisis we were in, and people were kind of hungry for any beginning of solution presented to them.
Let's go back a little bit to Ennahda itself. So in many ways, what you're describing is a movement that is kind of distinctly Tunisian, right? Its concerns and its links to the country. But is it also shaped by or linked to ideological, material, and social linkages with other Islamic or Islam-inspired movements in the region? Or does it have any, transnational networks and tap into flows of Islamic thinkers, activists, and institutions?
So this is a very interesting question, because you know how usually, and I find it to not be that accurate, and especially with what we know now, and the research that is produced on Tunisia. But usually we tend to say that Ennahda is just the Tunisian kind of branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, and that it is, like part of the umbrella organization. And I think one of the main difference about Ennahda, it is a very nationally rooted political party, which is also born in the local dispute, religiously talking, between the different views of the religion that has developed in Tunisia, and especially after the end of the French protectorate and the beginning of the modern state in Tunisia as we know it after the colonization. So I think that we tend to exaggerate a little bit this relationship and link that Ennahda could have with other Islamic movement. And I don't only think about the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, but also the Iranian, revolution dynamic in the 70s, or what happened in Damascus in the 90s and in the beginning of the year 2000. So I think we need also to look a little bit about what happened in Europe. Many Ennahda activists, when they had to leave Tunisia and flee Tunisia as political refugees in Europe, invested and developed a lot of organization who were, trying to come up with what can be Islam in Europe. And I'm thinking especially about the work that did a lot of Ennahda, originally coming from Ennahda, Tunisian scholars in Europe with Sheikh Youssef Qaradawi and with many other scholars, and I'm thinking also about Hassan Dawood, inside what we called the Islamic Fatwa Council, the European Islamic Fatwa Council. Many Tunisians participated in that, and Tunisians coming from Ennahda participated in that. You know, when we look at the sociology of the trajectories of a lot of people, like, for example, Mohsen Zemzmi, many scholars in Germany, in France here, Ahmed Jaballah, for example. So all these people who are, again, coming from Ennahda, and many of them actually, you know, 100% integrated inside the societies they established in, and didn't come back to Tunisia after the revolution, or didn't come back to Ennahda as political activists after the revolution, despite, you know, like the freedom and etc. And the last influence, I would say, and it can be a bit surprising, but it's actually Angela Merkel and the CDU. And Angela Merkel was the chancellor in Germany in 2011. And I know, especially with regards to what is happening today, but there were a time where Germany was actually quite interested in polishing its image toward the Arab world, and seeing politically the Arab Spring as a great occasion to do that, and got very much invested, you know, in supporting the revolution in Tunisia and the democratic transition. And they invested a lot of money there through their international development agencies and etc. So it was a time where a lot of Ennahda people who were at the head of the state at that time, and a lot of CDU leaders and Angela Merkel especially, were meeting a lot. And there was this idea that if Christian Democrats can actually exist, Muslim Democrats can exist too, and they can be an example, because look at what they were able to do in Germany in terms of economic development, social progress, peace building, and etc. You know, the whole effort made by Ennahda in 2016 to come up with this Muslim Democrat branding, and kind of also helping, you know, like the West to understand what Ennahda is. That was an occasion for Ennahda to look at what the CDU is, and what is and how the you know, like Christian democracy actually developed in Europe, and it was yeah, very much an influence for Ennahda till 2021.
Saida, thank you very much for your time today, for coming to discuss these, I think, important issues with us. And yeah, thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.